In the forlorn depths of the decaying city of Arkham, a malevolent presence lay hidden, a force so sinister that it could send even the bravest souls cowering in fear. This malevolence took shape in the form of Art the Clown, a grotesque entity plucked from the nightmares of a tortured carnival. It all began on a night as dark as the abyss itself, the moon obscured by thick, ashen clouds that cast an eerie pallor over the deserted streets of Arkham. The city had long been forsaken, its once thriving population fleeing from the unrelenting darkness that clung to its very soul. Legend had it that Art had emerged from this nightmarish abyss, a creature born from the festering despair that festered in the city's heart. Art the Clown was no ordinary jester. His visage was a grotesque canvas, smeared with white makeup that was haphazardly slathered upon his ashen skin. His lips were contorted into a permanent grin, a jagged slash of red that seemed to stretch impossibly from ear to ear. His eyes were twin voids of malevolence, deep, endless pits that absorbed all light, devoid of any trace of humanity. His clothing was a tattered, blood-stained clown suit, its patches and rips telling a macabre tale of horrors untold. His elongated fingers were adorned with jagged, rusted nails that gleamed with a sinister sheen. In his clammy grasp, he wielded an assortment of grotesque, rusty instruments of torment, each one meticulously crafted for the sole purpose of inflicting unimaginable suffering. The first ill-fated victim to cross paths with Art was a young woman named Sarah. She had been wandering the desolate streets of Arkham, her footsteps echoing in the deathly silence, searching for any sign of life. It was then that she heard it, an eerie, distant laughter that sent shivers down her spine. The laughter was chilling, a high-pitched cackle that seemed to emanate from all directions. As Sarah turned a corner, her heart seized in terror. There, standing before her, was Art the Clown. His grin widened impossibly, and he tilted his head at an unnatural angle, his neck emitting a bone-chilling creak. Paralyzed with fear, Sarah attempted to flee, but Art moved with preternatural speed. His tattered clown shoes made no sound as he closed in, and with a fluid, inhuman motion, he produced a gleaming butcher's knife from his tattered, blood-soaked suit. The blade gleamed malevolently in the dim light as he lunged at Sarah. In a desperate twist, she narrowly evaded the deadly blade, but it grazed her arm, sending a searing, agonizing pain coursing through her body. A scream of terror erupted from her lips as hot blood spilled onto the pavement. Terrified and injured, Sarah stumbled through the fog-draped streets, her world a blur of pain and panic. Art pursued her relentlessly, his presence a haunting specter that refused to be shaken. No matter which alleyway she turned into or which shadow she sought refuge within, he was there, lurking, grinning, tormenting. Sarah's ordeal stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Art played sadistic games with her, his malevolent laughter echoing through the forsaken streets, tormenting her psyche. He appeared and disappeared at will, a nightmarish puppeteer pulling her strings with cruel delight. With each passing moment, Sarah's strength waned, and exhaustion threatened to overtake her. Eventually, she could go on no longer, her trembling legs giving way. She collapsed onto the cold, damp pavement, her vision blurring as the pain from her wound consumed her. As Art the Clown approached her slowly, his grin a grotesque rictus, she knew that there was no hope, no salvation from the clown's sadistic cruelty. The knife gleamed ominously in his hand, poised for the final fatal blow. But just as the blade began its descent, a sudden burst of light pierced the suffocating darkness. It was the headlights of a police car that had ventured into the heart of Arkham, responding to reports of a disturbance. The officers rushed to the scene, guns drawn, and Art the Clown retreated into the shadows, vanishing into the fog like a malevolent wraith. Sarah was rescued, her life narrowly spared, but the horrors of that night would forever haunt her. Art the Clown had slipped away into the abyss of Arkham once more, his malevolent laughter echoing in the darkest corners of her mind, a reminder that evil could take many forms, and that some nightmares were all too real. Deep in the heart of the forsaken city of Arkham, a sinister enigma awaited those brave or unfortunate enough to venture into its dark embrace. This malevolence took shape in the terrifying guise of Art the Clown, a malevolent specter spawned from the most wicked recesses of a twisted carnival. The tale began on a night cloaked in impenetrable darkness, the moon's pale glow extinguished by the ominous storm clouds that loomed over the city. Arkham had long been abandoned, its former residents fleeing from the creeping maleficence that had infested its very soul. Whispers circulated that Art had emerged from the very shadows that had consumed the city, an embodiment of the anguish and despair that had festered in its depths. Art the Clown was no ordinary circus performer. His visage was an abomination, a canvas of ghastly white makeup crudely smeared across ashen skin. His lips were eternally twisted into a grotesque grin that seemed to stretch impossibly from ear to ear, revealing jagged, yellowed teeth. His eyes were twin abysses, two swirling vortexes of malevolence that absorbed all light, devoid of any semblance of humanity. His attire was a ragged, blood-stained clown suit, a patchwork of horrors that bore witness to unspeakable acts. His elongated fingers sported jagged, rusted nails, gleaming ominously in the dim light. In his gnarled grasp, he wielded an arsenal of macabre, rust-covered instruments, each designed with cruel precision to inflict untold agony. The first soul to cross paths with Art was a man named Thomas. He had ventured into the city on a dare, determined to prove his courage to his friends. As he navigated the desolate streets of Arkham, an eerie, distant laughter danced on the chill wind, a haunting prelude to the nightmare that awaited. The laughter was spine-chilling, an unsettling, high-pitched cackle that seemed to emanate from the very bowels of hell. As Thomas turned a corner, his heart seized in terror. Before him stood Art the Clown, his grin widening unnaturally, his neck twisting at an impossible angle with a bone-chilling creak. Panic gripped Thomas as he attempted to flee, but Art moved with supernatural speed. His tattered shoes made no sound as he closed in, and with a fluid, unnatural motion, he produced a gleaming, serrated blade from the folds of his sinister clown attire. The blade glinted malevolently in the dim light as it slashed toward Thomas. With a desperate twist, Thomas barely evaded the blade, but it grazed his arm, sending a searing, agonizing pain coursing through his body. A guttural scream of terror erupted from his lips as crimson blood spilled onto the cold, unforgiving pavement. Terrified and wounded, Thomas staggered through the fog-shrouded streets, the relentless pursuit of Art driving him deeper into despair. No matter which alleyway he turned into, or which shadow he sought refuge within, Art was there, lurking, grinning, taunting. Thomas's ordeal stretched on, each moment an eternity of torment. Art played sadistic games with him, his malevolent laughter echoing through the forsaken streets, a torment that eroded his sanity. The clown appeared and disappeared at will, an inescapable phantom that reveled in his suffering. As Thomas's strength waned and exhaustion threatened to claim him, he stumbled and fell, his vision blurring as the pain from his wound overwhelmed him. Art approached slowly, his grin an obscene mockery of compassion. Just as Art raised his blade for the final, fatal blow, a blinding flash of light pierced the oppressive darkness. It was the headlamps of a police car, responding to reports of a disturbance in the heart of Arkham. The officers rushed to the scene, weapons drawn, and Art the Clown retreated into the shadows, vanishing like a malevolent wraith into the abyss. Thomas was saved, his life narrowly preserved, but the horrors of that night would haunt him forever. Art the Clown had eluded capture, slipping back into the chilling depths of Arkham, his malevolent laughter echoing in the darkest recesses of his victim's mind. It served as a haunting reminder that malevolence could take many forms, and that some nightmares were all too real.